Hello again, and welcome to the third video in the employee insurance modeling series. I'm Jeremy with Ray & Associates. In the previous video, I walked you through an example, a simplified examples of how to build COUNTIFs and SUMIFS functions, which is essentially what we want to do in this model, where we have 100 employees listed on our census worksheet, and we've indicated which plan code that they're in, and we have the total monthly premiums, the employer share of the premiums, and the employee share of the premiums. And what we want to do is summarize that data by each plan code so that we can count the number of employees that participate in each plan and then sum up the values of the premium costs. So we'll start back on the projections worksheet where we're going to build a COUNTIFs function. So we start typing that. I'll arrow down to the COUNTIFs function tab to accept the predictive text, and now we see we're looking for the criteria range argument. So for this, we're going to go over to the census sheet, since this is where we want to count the number of employees that are in the plan, and I'm just going to select the entire range of the plan codes on the census sheet. So I click on the first record and I hit Control and Shift at the same time while holding that, and press the down arrow. That will keep the entire range selected and go all the way to the bottom of the range. So you can see in the function that's being built in the formula editor where this was defined as an Excel table, so it's using the table name and it recognizes that the plan code field is being selected, comma for the next argument, which is the criteria. So we're evaluating this criteria range and we're going to count them if it meets a particular set of criteria. So if we go over to the projections worksheet, we're entering this value here in cell C8. We only want to count from the insurance census plan codes. We only want to count them if the value is equal to, in this case, MMO-S. So I've clicked on that cell reference. Again, since this was defined as a table, it's not using a cell reference, but rather the current table along with the field name, which was plan code. The remaining arguments are in square brackets. We don't have any other criteria. We just had one set of criteria, so we can close the parentheses, and that's the end of that function. If we hit enter, because this was defined as a table, it populated all the way down the range of the table. So remember, I said we had a list of 100 employees, and now we know that there were 31 employees in MMO-S. And again, this spreadsheet's dynamic, so if we were to go take somebody that's on MMO-S and if we change them to a different plan, we now see that this has now reduced down to 30. So what's awesome about these COUNTIFs functions and SUMIFS functions is that as we update data on our census and on our census worksheet, the number of employees will change, the premium costs are going to change, and thus we've maintained a dynamic model that really, as we make one small change, everything recalculates, and that's what I think the value is of building a model like this. So we can play with different scenarios. We don't have to sort data and sum data and really play around with it too much to get meaningful insight from a data set. Okay? So that is how as simple as it is to just get the counts for different criteria like that. Now, how do we do the SUMIFS? Well, let's start building this function and walking through the syntax. So we start typing SUMIFS. Okay, I'll tab to get the formula assist to update, and now the first argument is a sum range. So the sum is going to be coming from the census worksheet, where we're entering the formula. We need the column we are entering the formula needs to know the monthly premium. Okay, so starting with the first record, which is cell E3, and I'm doing that Control Shift down arrow, goes all the way down to the bottom of the range while keeping it selected. In the formula, we see it's coming from the insurance census table with the field name total monthly premium. So that's the first argument. That's the range that we want to sum, but only if it's going to meet a particular plan code. Okay, so comma, The criteria range that we want to evaluate is just this plan code over here. So we'll go to the first record, and we will Control Shift down arrow to select all the remaining records, and we can see insurance census table and the plan code field, comma for the next argument, which is the criteria, which is actually on the projection sheet. So for when we're entering this formula in cell D8, we want to sum the monthly premiums, where we've defined the sum range, we've defined the criteria range that will be evaluated of whether or not the dollar amount is going to be included in the sum. So we just need to tell it what is the criteria to include for the sum. So we'll just click on this MMO-S, the first record here, or the first field, and then we can close the parentheses and we hit enter. And again, because this was formatted as a table, it sums it down. So now we have the total monthly premiums cost for each one of those plans. Okay. Now we could build those same functions over here, but an easier way would be to copy this. So Control C, we're copying this function. We'll go over to this cell and paste it here. The reason I did that is because some of the arguments are the same anyways. The way we use the formula assist, if I double click on this cell, the sum range, if we click on that argument in the formula assist, we can see what the sum range is. It came from the insurance census table total monthly premium field, which is not what we want here. We actually want the board share field from that table. So when we click on it, it selects the text, and as we click around, you can see that in that sum range it's now changed. So we know that if I simply just click on the census tab and go over to the field board share and Control Shift down, now we can see in the sum range field that up here the first argument was sum range insurance census, the board share field. Okay, so we hit enter, and now that's updated. And again, to illustrate that, we can copy that function and paste it over here. Double click, go to the sum range argument, selected. Now we want to pull the employee share in terms of dollars instead of the board share terms of dollars. So we'll click on our census sheet and we go to the first record. Okay, and Control Shift down arrow and we hit enter, and that's as simple as it is. So you can definitely see the advantages of understanding how to copy a function that you've already built and pasting it, and then simply just editing arguments within it. Just by double clicking the cell, you can bounce around to the different arguments and change just those elements of the argument that needs to be changed. So the remaining columns in this model were built using the same types of functions. They just pulled information from the census sheet from different years, and we can see how that drives the changes in total costs over time. If I scroll further to the right, you can see how the existing model, the way it is doing that. And then finally, if we go over to the monthly plan rates worksheet, and we start, say this is going to be 88%, we update that there, we go back to the projections worksheet, and everything updates seamlessly. So this is definitely the main advantage of building a dynamic model, where the less input that's required, the more efficient and more meaningful your information is going to be. Alright, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.